Hey, what's going on, everybody? All right, this is part three of three of. I already forgot what I named this. The first two parts I did like 2 months ago, and they've been sitting on my phone. And this is part three. This is the rest of the article that I said I wouldn't read the whole thing, but I need to read the whole thing because it really matters. So if you're watching this video, go watch part one and two, and then this will be the end. So, an ambulance had initially been called to transport Mr. Leone, who had suffered multiple injuries. Instead, the trooper who had broken his hand while punching Leone received medical attention, and Mr. Leone, who was handcuffed and hog-tied, was transported to the hospital in the back of a patrol car. Beaten again at the hospital. Let's see what this is here. Nursing Systems Review Assessment. The highlighted part says, was carried to triage room by police. And then it says something, patient's hands were with handcuffs and patient's feet were tied together with rope, and the rope was also tied to patient's handcuffs. And then cooperative with an effect that is calm. So the patient was cooperative with an effect that was calm. The patient was orientated ×3 and speaking appropriately for age. Swollen area behind his right ear. Okay. So beaten again. Robert Leone was still hogtied when he was brought into the Towanda Hospital. A fact documented. Read much lately? A fact documented in his medical records. Mr. Leone attempted to quietly tell the attending nurse what happened to him and begged her for help. Unfortunately for him, one of the troopers overheard his plea. The exam room was ordered cleared of all medical personnel, and a third round of beatings and taserings occurred while Mr. Leone was handcuffed to his gurney. Dude, if these are not terrorists, these are Pennsylvania state policemen, they probably still have their jobs. This is just going to get worse, people. This is so disgusting. Police allege that Leone reached at an officer all the justification they needed for beating him with batons and using tasers multiple times. The trooper later admitted at Leone's trial that he was never hit by the defendant, but that did not stop Mr. Leone from being found guilty of assault for what took place in that room. So if I'm understanding that right, this guy was beaten by the police at the hospital when he was begging the nurse for help. He was found guilty of assaulting the police in the hospital room while they were beating him. Oh my Lord. Mr. Leone was discharged from the Towanda General Hospital in worse condition than he had arrived in. Beaten again at the police barracks. After his treatment at the hospital, Mr. Leone was taken to the PSP barracks Towanda for processing. While at the barracks, an arraignment was set up with an on-call judge who was located remotely and used a video feed to connect with the police. Think of this situation right here. They've beaten him how many times now? Because I made the first two parts months ago. How many times is this dude beaten? Beaten to death, taken to the hospital, asked the nurse to help him. Instead, the police beat him for doing that. He leaves that hospital in worse condition. And now they're taking him to be arraigned, hogtied and beaten to death over a video screen with an on-call judge. How much you guys want to bet these guys are still employed? Mr. Leone was instructed not to look into the video camera during his arraignment and only to answer questions that he was asked. Dude, it's not the first time I'm reading this, but I just have to pause in disbelief here. How is this happening in America? As soon as the video link was established, Mr. Leone looked directly into the camera and begged the judge for help. The trooper immediately disconnected the video link, claiming that a malfunction had occurred with no cameras recording Mr. Leone, was severely beaten for a third time. How much you want to bet these cops still work as cops? While at the barracks, Leone stated that the troopers told him that they could make it look like he committed suicide while in custody, or they could throw him off a bridge, and a state that somehow he got the rear door of the patrol car open and then jumped off the bridge himself. The prisoner was so sure the troopers were going to kill him that night, he tried to shuffle away when he was being escorted to the patrol car for transportation to the county jail, even though he was handcuffed and his feet were shackled. So the dude's trying to escape. He's hogtied and shackled, and he's still trying to escape because he thought he was going to get murdered by the police. His pathetic escape attempt gave police an opportunity to beat him once again, and this time douse him with pepper spray. His injuries were so severe at that point that he was unconscious when he was delivered to the hospital for his second evaluation. According to the hospital report, all of the injuries Mr. Leone's body were on his back and none were frontal, indicating that his injuries were not caused while being subdued because of any aggressive behavior. Apparently, the hospital staffs themselves were so fearful of these troopers that they released Mr. Leone back into police custody only 26 minutes later. These are the same people who apologize for police, people. These are the same people who get on my comments and say, oh, you just hate police. Oh, if you just obey police. Oh, if you ain't got nothing to hide. Oh, how come you're being so mean to the police? How come you're cursing at the police? Because this is police culture. This is why. They don't deserve any cordialness. They don't deserve any courtesy. This is police culture in America. I don't care if you don't like it. This is the truth. When I make videos like this, none of you get on here and say a word. Only my speeding ticket video that offended you, that I told a cop to go F his mom because they're stealing my money on the roadside. I mean, that's how I would treat any criminal. I don't care what kind of costume they're wearing. A criminal is a criminal. These criminal gang members here are wearing costumes and they're terrorizing an innocent man. They pulled over the wrong guy. And the people at the hospital won't help the Americans. They should all be complicit. How can you let him back into custody? Where's the judge? The judge had to have seen what the guy's face looked like. Where the fuck was I? They released Mr. Leone back into police custody only 26 minutes later. Without treatment, and while Mr. Leone was still semi-conscious, Mr. Leone's vital signs at this point showed him to be in serious physical distress. Like I am right now. Look at this guy's face. Look what they did to this guy. And he's not even the right guy. Dude, you should have to have a bachelor's degree to be a cop. Or else this is what happens. Only good people will become cops if they're willing to go 4 years and get a bachelor's degree. They don't want good cops. They want cops that'll do this type of bullshit right here. They don't care even if these cops went to jail, it wouldn't change anything. The whole police culture in America needs an overhaul. That's all there is to it. Oh, I'm sorry. Where was I in the story of how they terrorized Mr. Leone? So Mr. Leone was arrived in jail. Mr. Leone was transported via patrol car in a semi-conscious state to the Bradford County Correctional Facility. He was received in such poor condition that the jail called their on-call staff physician to the jail to evaluate Mr. Leone. They put him on the phone and he starts screaming that he's been beaten within an inch of his life. Robert's mother, Joan Leone, told WBNG they tried to kill him through the night. He has been threatened that they're going to kill him and make him look like a suicide or an accident. Numerous pictures of Leone's injuries were taken by the prison staff in order to defend the prison. Should it later be accused of mishandling the already ravaged prisoner. Subsequently, when the photographs were requested, the prison claimed that these pictures do not exist. The prison guard, name withheld, who befriended Leone told him that the jail administrators were lying because the guard saw the pictures for himself. The picture featured in this article is a copy of the actual booking photo taken by the prison. Mr. Leone laid in jail cell for days without proper treatment and probably should have died from his injuries. The prison would not release any information to Mr. Leone's family about his condition for over 5 days. His family was not allowed to speak to him in person or on the phone, nor would the prison allow any other visitors or legal counsel to visit him. Since Robert Leone could not pay his outrageous $250,000 worth of bail, he has to pay he's in jail, has to pay $250,000 bail because he got beaten to within an inch of his life. That's why he's in jail, for being a victim of terrorist Pennsylvania State Police. He remained incarcerated for 6 months until his trial. While he languished in jail, he was denied any additional medical treatment, particularly for his head injuries. I really have a problem saying particularly and articulable. I have to really slow down. Even though he had excellent private health insurance to pay for it if necessary. So he could have paid for his own medical treatment and he still couldn't get it. The corruption in PA is so widespread that they're going to keep him in for 4 years because they have no intention of letting him out because he's going to be speaking about what's happening to him, Joan Leone said. Okay, here we go. Railroaded with charges. This is like the worst of the worst of the worst, and it's not even the worst, the things that police do in this country. Robert Leone's traumatic physical experience was followed by being charged with 24 separate crimes. Aggravated assault. He assaulted somebody, they're saying. That's what this guy is being charged with. The guy who got beaten by the police. He's being charged with aggravated assault. Driving while under the influence of alcohol or controlled substance. That's a lie. First two are lies already. Escape. That's another lie. Because he wasn't trying to escape. He didn't understand why you guys wouldn't go around him. Because he kind of thinks logically. I'm not breaking any laws. He wasn't. Simple assault. Again, he got beaten almost to death, literally almost to death, and they charged him with simple assault and aggravated assault. Reckless endangering another person. Again, he was traveling home after stargazing. Who endangered who? Resisting arrest. That's another lie. Is that after they monkey stomped him or whatever the hell they called it? Fleeing or attempting to elude a police officer. Another lie. What was he going, 19 miles an hour? Disorderly conduct. Another lie. Failure to stop at the scene of an accident. That's another lie. Because he was not at an accident. Harassment. Another lie. Failure to provide the proper information following an accident. Another lie because he wasn't involved in any accident. You guys caused the accident on him. And then you beat him to death. And failure to notify the authorities after an accident had occurred because he wasn't in an accident. To go with his black eye and brutal beating, Mr. Leone was literally charged with breaking a trooper's fist with his face. That's the aggravated assault. So as the trooper's punching this guy in the face, he hurt his own hand, and he charged his face with hurting his fist. The 24 charges include 4 serious felonies for which he could feasibly be spending the rest of his natural life in prison. For not breaking a law. This is happening to this guy. For all you morons and imbeciles who say, if you don't break the law, you ain't got nothing to worry about. Shut the hell up. You're a moron. People are like, Joe, all you know how to do is call people names. Well, when you keep hearing that stupidity come out of people's mouth, I don't know what to do. Anyone who says, look, Joe's not wearing a seatbelt, you're a moron. I'm sorry. You can't think beyond the TV or beyond whatever nonsense been fed to you. You can't think beyond that if you say things like, where's your seatbelt? What else do they say? I intentionally get pulled over. You're a moron if you say that. Well, let me finish this article first, and then I'll go ranting. It appears the cover-up of Leone's beatings became so important that the Bradford County District Attorney personally took up the task of prosecuting the case. I've been watching a lot of stuff on Netflix, and I'm starting to really hate prosecutors. They are not objective people. I haven't seen one that's acted objectively and used objective facts and reasoning. I've seen them try to manipulate cases. And in the Stephen Avery case, I believe the prosecution's star witness is actually the murderer. Okay, here we go again. Despite having dash cam video evidence in his possession, the same dash cam video of which I made a documentary, DA Daniel Barrett attempted to prosecute all 24 counts against Robert Leone. So obviously this prosecutor is butthurt that I don't know why. There's no reason. I'm sorry if this fella got a black eye or if he got scraped up. His picture looked pretty pathetic. But he was the one that brought this on and continued it. Barrett said, this is the district attorney said this. All district attorneys have 2 basic requirements, not options, when fulfilling their oaths of office. One is to prosecute the guilty and the other is to protect the innocent. In this case, DA Daniel Barrett did neither. At the very least, a dash cam video contradicted sworn statements made by the troopers, and in many instances proved Mr. Leone's innocence. Instead of dropping the charges, Bradford County District Attorney knowingly prosecuted a man that he knew was innocent of everything except his failure to stop. Leone is guilty of this for sure, failure to stop. That shouldn't, again, and you don't have to stop if you're not breaking any laws. I don't see how that's even legitimate. So, I don't know, Bradford County District Attorney, you guys want to make a difference? Call flood this piece of shit. What is his name? DA Daniel Barrett. DA Daniel Barrett in Bradford County District Attorney. Don't cuss. Don't cuss when you call, but say something like, first see if he's even there. Just speak your mind, man, but don't cuss. So Leone's trial just gets better and better. Robert Leone's trial began August 31st, 2010. District Attorney Barrett claimed at trial that Mr. Leone was drug-addled maniac that endangered the general public because of substance abuse problem. Is this guy serious right here? But that was not the case. Mr. Leone's lab results showed that he had 000 blood alcohol content, and the only drug in his system was prescribed medication for his diagnosed bipolar disorder. Excuse me. For some reason, Leone's physician had assigned him a very high dosage. Nonetheless, the DA waved an empty prescription bottle before the jury and told them that it was evidence that Mr. Leone had taken a significant number of pills at once. How's that? At another point in the trial, the DA introduced as evidence part of the internal investigation that was conducted by Pennsylvania State Police Office of Integrity and Professional Standards. The DA only showed part of the report to the jury, which consisted of the troopers' own sworn statements. He then asked one of the troopers if they were punished or reprimanded in any way following their conduct in this case. The trooper told DA and the jury that he and his colleagues were cleared of any wrongdoing. I'm shocked. The police investigated themselves and found themselves innocent. If that's not a sovereign citizen, I don't know what is. When I get pulled over for speeding, can I tell the cop, hey man, just file a complaint with my professional standards department and we'll run an investigation and we'll tell you whether we're guilty or not. That's how the police operate in this country. Think about how ridiculously asinine that is, that police investigate themselves. That is ridiculous to say the least. All right. So they were cleared of all wrongdoing. The investigation was conducted by a fellow trooper from the same barracks. Hello, McFly. When the public defender demanded a copy of the complete report, her demand was denied by Bradford County President Judge Jeffrey Smith with no explanation. So all these people are committing conspiracy against this guy now. If this isn't treason, I don't know what is. If this isn't treasonous to the Constitution and to this country, I don't know what is. Come on. Hey, Mike the Sovereign Cop and Cream-Filled Donut Operator, please defend these guys. I'm sure they're still employed. They've probably been promoted. You two are disgusting too. To this day, Leone family and every outsider has been denied access to a copy of the full report. To this day, they can't get a full report. Right? This guy must be a sovereign citizen, right, Mike the Sovereign Cop? Greenfield Donut Operator? Cover this story if you got a set of nuts on you. Sources indicated to me that the nurse who witnessed the round of beatings inside the Towanda hospital was not brought into the trial to testify out of extreme fear for her safety. This statement was made by Mr. Leone's public defender to Leone's parents. The nurse was not afraid of Mr. Leone. She was afraid of the police. It was too scared to even go to trial. When the prosecution rested its case, Mr. Leone's court-appointed public defender had an opportunity to rip the DA and the arresting troopers to shreds, especially for their outright and provable misstatement of facts and exposure of these details could have proved helpful to Leone's fate. Instead of a rebuttal, the public defender would offer 3 apparently magic words when it was time for her to defend her client. The defense rests. So this guy's getting a fair trial, right, everyone? So instead of the public defender defending and showing all the facts of the case and getting the full report, etc., he or she just stood up and said, defense rest. Go ahead. This guy's almost been murdered. Go ahead and throw him in jail now. Despite a non-existent defense effort, Leone was found guilty by the jury. A jury found this guy guilty of something. Guilty by the jury of only 4 of 24 charges. They were hit and run. I don't know how, since he didn't hit and run anyone. Attempting to flee from officers. Again, he was doing like 20 miles an hour. Resisting arrest. And 1 count of simple assault. Dude, what kind of jury is this? Oh my, how can you find this dude guilty of anything? How? Shame on you. You are not an American. Most importantly, he was found not guilty all 4 of the felonies. It appears that the trial judge did not like the decision the jury had rendered, and rather than sentencing to Mr. Leone to time served, Leone is sentenced to 2.5 to 4 years in prison. You think this judge is an unbiased arbitrator? Or you think he's a scumbag tyrant? Which one do you think he is? With a sentence this severe, it is customary for an inmate to serve his time in a state facility. Judge Jeffrey Smith instead ordered Mr. Leone to be held in Bradford County. Oh, an appeal by the hapless public defender was filed on behalf of Mr. Leone and subsequently rubber stamped denied by the Superior Court. All right, it keeps getting worse here. Parole denied. The warden of Bradford County Correctional Facility commented to Mr. Leone's parents that if all of the prisoners in his facility acted like Mr. Leone, he wouldn't need any guards. Despite his apparent good behavior in the eyes of the warden, Mr. Leone had been denied release from prison by the parole board multiple times. The first parole was denied because, as they stated, Mr. Leone did not finish taking a drug and alcohol abuse class while incarcerated. This was a dubious claim because Mr. Leone had not been convicted of any substance-related crime, and his blood was proven to be free of alcohol and illegal drugs. So now the parole board is in on the conspiracy too. All of government's pretty much corrupted, people. I'm trying to think of a part that isn't. If you never mind. I'm not going off on a tangent. The second parole denial was because the board lost the paperwork. This could have been part of a conscious effort to keep Mr. Leone incarcerated until the expiration on a statute of limitations that would have allowed him to file a federal lawsuit against the officers involved. Fortunately, we beat this date by 4 days and filed a federal lawsuit in the Middle District of Penna. I don't know what Penna is. No accountability. The Pennsylvania State Police officially cleared its own troopers of any and all wrongdoing regarding the entire handling of the Robert Leone case from start to finish. Corporal Roger Stipcack and it's probably Stipsack, probably Cocksack, Dick Fuck, Corporal Roger Stipsack, and all of the other 4 participating troopers kept their jobs and faced no legal repercussions. Hooray! Police are sovereign citizens, and they don't face repercussions when they almost murder a man who did nothing on the side of the road. Hooray! Blue lives matter a lot more than yours or anyone else's. What might have been turned into a major scandal in Pennsylvania State Police in Bradford County was completely swept under the rug. Bullies with badges and their support network. It is difficult for the average United States citizen to wrap his or her mind around the concepts of widespread police brutality and judicial culpability. We are taught at an early age that police are good and they're here to protect us from evil. Yeah, I still hear morons that are over the age of 10 who still say that. We are never taught that occasionally some police officers are in fact evil themselves. As a society and in general terms, it is repetitively hammered into our psyche that if a person is arrested, he must have committed a crime. The public perception also wrongly assumes that if a person is beaten by police, he probably deserved that beating. Only a minority questions that paradigm and is often reinforced with media reports biased towards the police. In the months following the Towanda traffic stop, Robert Leone was convicted in the eyes of the public and media long before his sentence fell on him. It began when the state police reported that they arrested Mr. Leone after he was involved in a hit-and-run accident, a lie, and a lengthy car chase, another lie, that ended with Leone fighting with officers, another lie, that thus requiring him to be forcibly subdued, another lie. Local media regurgitated exactly what the troopers fed them as if it were factual, something fake news, TV media shouldn't do, nor should any media do this, but they're disgusting pigs too. They're prostitutes. If you just take police officers' word as fact and report it, you're not a journalist. You're a order-following scumbag piece of shit, just like the police. You're not any better. The district attorney for Bradford County helped to demonize Mr. Leone by spreading more erroneous info. See more. I'm not clicking on that. This is long enough. Reading the official press release and then watching the county DA justify the troopers' actions would likely satisfy most law-abiding citizens in the belief that their police officers were acting righteously on the streets. However, the actual dash cam footage released 2 years after the incident told us another story. If this dash cam video did not exist, Mr. Leone would probably be spending most of his adult life in prison. Even with this evidence, I cannot get the FBI, U.S. Attorney General, or the Department of Justice to open a criminal or civil rights investigation. I believe there has been so much misconduct by so many players in this case that the feds simply do not want to open what appears to be a huge can of worms. Yeah, because the judges are in on it, the prosecutors in on it, all the cops are in on it, the police unions are in on it, internal affairs are in on it, the judge is in on it, if I didn't say him already. I am talking specifically about 7 police officers, the district attorney, the Pennsylvania State Police Office Integrity, everything I just said, the judge, the Superior Court, I missed that one, the prison, and last but not least, Mr. Leone's public pretender. How could so many safeguards fail and fail with such magnificence? The only safeguard that almost got it right was Mr. Leone's trial jury. Leone was found guilty of only 4 of 24 counts and 0 of them were felonies. Although Mr. Leone was charged with breaking a trooper's fist with his face, he was found not guilty of that crime. Since Mr. Leone's trial, I was told by one of the jurors through a third party that even the jury was intimidated by the troopers and the DA in this case. So much so that they felt they had to give him something or fear for their own well-being. Holy shitballs! Do you guys realize that we outnumber them? They make up 0.38 of the population. 0.38. That means we outnumber them 99.62 to 1. There's almost 100 of us to their 1. And they're intimidating us? Grow a pair of balls. Yell. Scream. Don't let this shit go down like this. I bet you these mother effers are still, see? I don't know when to cuss and when not to cuss. Because of the YouTube police. Dude, I'm losing my voice on this video. Alright. We as Americans are willing to go to foreign lands and spill our own blood in the defense of freedom. Both ours as well as someone else's. Yet here at home, our freedoms are being directly attacked on a daily basis by the very agencies that are in place to assure us things like this never happen. Not only are injustices happening, they are happening on a large scale. I directly blame the chain of command as much as I blame the individual offending officers. In most instances, not only does the chain of command attempt to cover up and justify misconduct, but they actively chastise any officer who might step forward and attempt to right a wrong. In addition, I blame the Judicial Conduct Board as they directly oversee the courts, and I blame the Bar Association as most of the players here, except for the police, are attorneys, including the elected officials that should be intervening. Mr. Leone will soon have his day in federal court. Out of sheer coincidence, the federal judge that was assigned to hear his case is the very federal judge I wrote about in my book about judicial corruption in Pennsylvania. I have no confidence this judge will act appropriately. The big question that we should all be asking ourselves is, how do we fix all this? All right. Larry Hohall, former police officer and author. So this is a cop who wrote this article. And then his website is worsethanrodneyking.com. I need to check that out and see the follow-up on this. So that's it. Thanks for watching, guys. I really appreciate it. This is one of the worst ones, man. I mean, I've seen it all. I've binge watched like almost every video people send me. I'm like, yeah, I've seen it. Seen it. Don't get me wrong. You can send all the videos you want, but if I don't respond or I don't cover it, don't get upset because I've probably seen it. I just kind of go at the tune of my own skin flute, if you will. So thanks for watching. Please like, please subscribe. Peace, tranquility. This is disgusting. If somebody wants, please send me the links to any info you have on this. I mean, good videos or whatever. I'd like to follow up on this one. Go to this guy's website. There he is. Here's a story. He used to be a cop, so say what you want. This is a cop telling you. All right, everyone. Peace, tranquility. Thanks for watching. Bye.